is what we call our conversation series. And you probably know a little bit about WeUp, but I always give my WeUp spill in the beginning. WeUp is a membership organization, and you can follow WeUp online at weup.org or weupwomen.com. And we do a monthly newsletter. You probably heard about this event through our monthly newsletter. But if you're not subscribed, I recommend that you both subscribe, because what we do is we make sure that we list all of our announcements in our newsletter. But this is what we're going to have a series what we call conversations. And throughout every month, we're going to have conversations on different cutting edge topics that we could just bring an intimate group of women together to have great conversations on topics that we think are relevant for your business or to help you build your business. So I want to thank you for being here with us this morning. And I see Shauna just came in. Good morning, Shauna. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Pretty good. We're saying good morning. We have a small intimate group, so we're saying good morning to everyone. And I'm just giving my WeUp spill. I know you probably are all subscribed to our newsletter. Next week, we have another event. We're going to be talking about leveraging women-owned small business certifications. And Lindsay Richards is going to be spearheading that event next week on Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 o'clock noon. So if you're thinking about, I don't know where you are in terms of your certification, especially those free federal certifications, I think that would be a really great conversation, because we're going to be talking about it from the federal and from how you can take those certifications and leverage it in the private sector. On May 25th, we're also planning a networking event, and we're still on the fence in terms of our networking, because we're watching the COVID numbers and they're surging up, but we still want to start doing things in person as well. So our networking event will be virtual or in person. We're going to make that decision this week. Last month, we had a great virtual networking event, and everybody got online and they really shared information, and it was really great. And we had a really awesome group that joined us. So we'll keep you posted in terms of if we do in person or not in person. We just want to watch those COVID numbers because it's still real out here. Some people act like it does not exist, but COVID exists, and they have 2 new variants. So that's my spill about WeUp. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. And we only have about 55 minutes to talk about a great topic, relational capital. And we have one of our board members here with us, Leida Speller. And the topic today is called The Secret Sauce of Business Success, Building Relational Capital. And the speaker that we have is one of our WeUp board members. And also, what you don't know about Leida, she's also a financial advisor. We've co-authored several kind of books on financial strategies together, small pamphlets, I might say. And Leida is also a financial advisor with Applechief Financial Partners. So she has an extensive background in the financial market, and she's really keen, and that's how our relationship started. She really wants to educate women, especially women in business, about how financial planning is so important overall at any age that you are, in terms of your business success, in terms of your personal success. So as a WeUp board member, she's always sharing that message with our entrepreneurs. So Leida, I want to thank you for taking out your personal time to talk today about what I call the secret success of building relational capital. And me as a fundraiser with WeUp and building those relationships. I mean, building this relational capital is such an interesting topic that people really don't understand, but it's like networking, not really networking, but it's all about how you can push your business ahead with that relational capital, which is so important. So I'm excited about the conversation that we're going to have this morning about talking about relational capital and how it relates into your business and your personal success. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to our speaker, and I will be chiming in, monitoring, making comments as usual. So Leida, thank you for being with us this morning.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. It's just always such a blessing and a joy to be with my WeUp family and community. So thank you. The honor is actually all mine. And good afternoon, ladies. Antoinette kept saying good morning. I was like, oh, I wish I was still in the bed, right?
I don't know why I was saying, okay, so I meant good afternoon. I'm glad it's like morning.
Well, we just hit afternoon, right? We just hit afternoon a couple minutes ago. But I love this topic of building relational capital. And I love this topic because, it is one of the things where the raw material is kind of you. and who you are and what you're about. And you really get to get out in the marketplace and maximize that and have that add to your bottom line. And so we're going to dig into this topic. It's an ongoing conversation in the WeOp community, and I think it's an important one because as women, we can get stronger at that, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So, but before we dive in, I just like to do a quick check-in by asking a quick question. So, how many of you are aware?
Uh-oh, something happened.
Pre-COVID,
Leida, you went out for a second. I think
Oh.
your internet paused, so if you could just start
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. How many of you are aware that male-owned businesses they have a valuation 4 times that of women-owned businesses in our state? Did anyone know that fact? And this is a pre-COVID statistic, but pre-COVID, male-owned businesses, or the median male-owned business, was valued at about $687,000, whereas the median value of a woman-owned business in our state was $170,000. So men's businesses are outvaluing ours, and a number of factors actually go into that statistic. But another question: how many of you notice how excellent men are at building professional alliances and relationships that impact their business?
well, that's a good point, Leida. That's really a good point.
Is anyone kind of familiar with how men are able to really build that value in their businesses? Well, one, I would say, if we were to talk about or to state some observations of how effective men are at relationship building in support of their bottom line, I think what rises to the top for me is the fact that they will get on a golf course and be there together all day long, talking about nothing but business. So as we walk through our presentation today, we're going to do 4 things. We'll define relational capital, talk about what that is. We will talk about building relationships you need in order to be successful in your business. We'll talk about leveraging relationships, and then we'll talk about strategies for collaboration.
1 second, Leida, we're getting a little bit of feedback.
Oh,
I don't know where it's coming from. It sounds like a TV or something.
really?
Hold on 1 second.
Latasha's going to check real quick.
Okay.
I hear a little bit of feedback. Okay, I think it's gone, Tasha. Just wanted to
Okay.
know. If you hear it again, Tasha, let us know.
Okay.
Maybe everybody should stay on mute until. Okay, sorry, Leida, go ahead. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, you're fine. Okay, all right. So relational capital is actually a very technical term, and it is one of the 3 primary components of intellectual capital. And it is also which is the value inherent in a company's relationships. So if you think about strong strategic partnerships that are very, very visible, those relationships kind of are value that we can quantify that a company owns. So Antoinette or Tasha, is there anyone or any businesses in the WeOp community that you ladies want to call out? I think there was a brand that you and I spoke about, Antoinette.
And I want to say the value, I know with the WeOp community, they're finding value with what I call partnering. And for example, I went to an event this weekend where we have one of our WeOp members who is she's in retail. So she sells a luxury line of clothes. And then we have another WeOp member who actually owns a store. And so what happened is the lady who owns the store allow our other WeOp member to showcase her items in the store. So this is a kind of a relational capital kind of relationship that where she's able to showcase her items in the store. The other lady, so it's a partnership where they're supporting each other.
Exactly.
So she's bringing in her guests. So her guest is not only buying her things, but also patronizing the store. So they're making money from their mutual customers. So it's in terms of it's building that relational capital because they're both making money as a result of this relationship.
Absolutely, it's exactly right. And one thing I want to point out, ladies, is in the past, I know that your presentations have been shared with the community. And so we don't want this to just be a naked presentation where you're just seeing some bullets on the page. And we want this to kind of be a reference book that you can go back to, because it really is something that you can kind of start internalizing in your business and being intentional about implementing or intentional about developing in your business. But if we quickly define relational capital, it's defined as all relationships, like market relationships, power relationships, and cooperation established between firms, institutions, and people, which stem from a strong sense of belonging and a highly developed capacity for cooperation. And I think what Antoinette just described really models that strong sense of belonging and highly developed capacity of cooperation. These are clearly two businesses that are working very well together. And so why is that important? It's important because organizations can strengthen their internalization process. They can maintain both internal and external relationships, which are important, right? You got to make your employees happy. You got to make your customers and your client base happy. Those relationships are important. It helps to generate competitive advantages, expand the resource base, both financial and non-financial, right? When we think of someone being able to go into a facility that they don't necessarily have to cover the entire overhead expense, they've been able to expand a resource that is non-financial. And then to facilitate access to information. When we think of companies like, particularly, our tech companies who kind of, partner and who plug into each other to share data and to share information.
Leida, can I share one more example?
Please.
And I know that I get this question a lot for some of the ladies who are interested in doing like federal contracting. And we've had scenarios where sometimes that when you're going after a huge federal contract, you can partner with other businesses, small businesses. But to really build your relational capital on your website and for your business, you can have conversations with other entrepreneurs about being what we call contingency hires. And that means they are not really a part of your staff, but you can create a relationship where they allow you to showcase them on your website as being part of your team. So it increases your capacity. So you might show 3 other people that are part of your team. So as you go after those contracts, it strengthens you as a business to show that you have the capacity to fulfill that contract. So, but you're at the same time building that relational capital and building that trust. So potentially, if you get that contract, you could actually hire them as contingencies, and they're not really staff, but they're working with you as a team. So that's another kind of illustration of how, as we talk about relational capital, how we can encourage entrepreneurs to really understand how they can utilize that to show strength in their especially in their financial capacity or their HR capacity.
Absolutely. And you can really measure the impact of relational capital, right? Because if you think of the fact that relational capital should help drive sales, right? So if you go from not leveraging relational capital and the next year you're leveraging your relational capital, then you should be able to measure if there's an impact. Has that bumped up your sales? It should help drive innovation. Are there new products and services coming out of your business based upon you actively leveraging this relational capital? Should drive efficiency. Again, the bottom line is that it should positively impact your bottom line. All right. So I love this slide because it's in my business. It's important to really help women understand the concept of human capital. And so businesses use relational capital as the basis of collaborative entrepreneurship or an extension of human capital. And basically what that means is human capital is defined as the gifts, talents, skills, education, etc., that you bring to the marketplace. So your human capital is you. And so if you think of relational capital as the basis of collaborative entrepreneurship, which is an extension of human capital, it's basically you, again, taking your human capital and partnering with someone else's human capital to leverage each of your relational capital to have a collaborative entrepreneurship relationship.
So it's almost like when you look at it from a philosophical point of view, companies coming together and thinking about how they can strengthen, like you can have the same types of companies that actually come together and do business together, and it increases that capacity. So being collaborative in your efforts, because it strengthens what you're doing as a business.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe somebody else on the line has a good example of being collaborative with another entrepreneur. Maybe we could ask that. Anyone else have a story to share or ever thought about it from that point of view?
Well, I can share a little bit. So I'm opening up a family childcare provider. Well, I'm going from a family childcare provider to a center. So what I did was my chef that I have coming in, I'm paying her a small salary, but I'm allowing her to use the kitchen after hours for cooking instead of her having to go across town and use another kitchen. She can do it there. And also I'm going to open it up to where parents can rent out the space for whatever type of gathering they want. Contingent, they have to get something from my chef. So I'm trying to layer in where she can get work and build her business. Also, one of the things I plan on doing is providing one dinner that the families can take home so that they don't have to cook. The chef gets to choose what that is, so she can make it as great as she wants it to be within budget. And so when parents inquire and wish they could have that more, she has a built-in base that want to order from her. So I feel like that's a win-win relationship. We get a great chef, at a decent rate, and she can continue to build her business in hopes of whatever she wants to do with it.
That is a great partnership. That is great leveraging. Thank you for sharing that, Antoinette. That's awesome. Well, I hope that in your business, you are working with a good CPA, and over time, you have a CPA who can actually articulate that on your balance sheet, on your financial statements. Your relational capital is absolutely an asset. And so as you're building your business and you're growing your business and you're working with a CPA, make sure you're having that conversation. Can we talk about the goodwill or the relational capital that is in my business? And if you see that it doesn't exist, how do we have a conversation about me establishing it or me growing it? So always remember that relational capital is an asset that can and should show up on your balance sheet.
So you're saying in a situation that she just described, you're saying that she could actually show the intangible assets.
Yep, that's exactly right. So relational capital is one of 3 intangible assets. So when you look at the intangible assets that are reflected on the balance sheet, typically that contains the relational capital or the goodwill that's in your business. And so a good CPA can actually help quantify that for you.
So
So-
that goes
Okay.
in with the non-cash or the one-time expenses, or so they can relate. So actually you're putting a value to it, basically.
That's exactly right. It's an asset. And it is something that when you go to sell your business, factors into the valuation of your business.
Okay.
Because someone would much rather have a, a nonprofit organization where there is Mary and there's Antoinette leading the organization with 20 plus years as boots on the ground in the community and all of these relationships and all of these partnerships, rather than the 5-year-old nonprofit who is, single led and who doesn't have the rich and robust relationships that a WEOP has. Right. And so there's quantitative value in those relationships, because if those relationships go away, then quite frankly, a lot of your funds, a lot of your funding, whether it's through participant payment or grant funding, like a lot of your funding could dry up, right? So there can be a quantitative, or there is a quantitative value that should be applied to those relationships.
That's very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not a conversation that a lot of small business owners have with their CPAs. And I do encourage at least broaching the subject, and your business may not be there yet in terms of actually being able to quantify that and show it on your balance sheet. But it's a conversation that you should have, because if it is, and I think for many business owners, it absolutely is something that you can cultivate in your business and quantify going forward and have a strategy for growing and developing, you want to be having that conversation with your professional.
And to your point, that's the conversation I need to have, because we have, so even if you have a nonprofit organization, having so many volunteers that volunteer their time, and their time is value, having that on a balance sheet, it's almost like we have, 10 plus employees or so or more at a time working on a project.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Those relationships that allow you to get, labor that is donated are extremely valuable.
Okay.
All right. So so when we think about a strong relational capital ecosystem, it basically requires some things. There's some certain characteristics that are always present. And I would say the two most frequently present characteristics are efficiency. So they get things done very efficiently, and they lack toxicity and waste. Everything is there for a purpose, and everything that's there serves the greater good of the organization. So when we look at a strong relational capital ecosystem, there are some things that it requires. You have to value relationships. Like, you have to know that your relationships are important to your business, and more specifically, the bottom line of your business. You have to, they require understanding trustworthy and longstanding relationships are critically important. The woman who is opening up the boutique to the strategic partner has to trust that brand, has to trust that riffraff isn't coming into the door behind her, right? Like, there's a lot that has to be trusted there. Maintaining open ways of communicating, negotiating, and working together. Okay, so these two businesses got to communicate, right? Like, okay, so you said you were bringing 2 racks today. Why do you have 4 and there's no room in here today for it, right? So there has to be constant communication, and they have to be able to negotiate and work together, solve conflict and problems, diplomatically, right? And so you have to be able to do those things. And there's some very common fears that as a business owner, if your goal is to build or to grow human relational capital in your business, then there are some things that you're going to just have to get over. And some common fears are, employees and partners, right? Just making sure that we're seeing what's happening in our current economy and with a lot of businesses, people are having a difficult time retaining good employees. You know, clients and customers, again, got to be able to retain them, got to be able to draw them in, vendors and peers, and centers of influence. Let me see. All right.
Leida, what would you consider a center of influence?
So a center of influence is an individual who is very influential in a market or in a community, and who has a relationship with you, and that person may not directly do business with you, but that person influences or refers other people to your business.
Is that like a blog or one of those influential bloggers or something? Or
yeah, or that could be, so, you know, that could be so you and I, like Leida's practice and WeOp, right?
okay.
So if you were like really intentionally focused on women, let's say getting financial planning, you could say, okay, I have a strategic partnership with Wells Fargo, Leida Speller, whatever. We would all consider you as an important center of influence because we know that you are an individual, or WeUp is an organization that funnels business to our practices or to our businesses.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So how do we do it? Right. So now that we have a sense of what relational capital is, how do we create it in our businesses? And building relational capital requires building the right relationships.
Mhm.
And for some people, that can be difficult. You know, everybody don't like to talk to people. And some people like to talk to people too much. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so it can be difficult. So what are some of the challenges? I just kind of threw two out there. There's some really common challenges that are out there. I know another one for entrepreneurs is time. I'm sitting in my business all day. I don't have time to be out and about meeting people or connecting with people. Another is just access to networks. Where am I going to meet these people?
Mhm.
And so what we'd like to do now is just simply walk you through 6 strategies that are pretty effective at building relational capital. And the ones that are bolded in red are the ones that I really wanted to call out. So the first one is build new relationships by diversifying your networks. I am going to go ahead and admit it, I have a strong propensity of staying with people who look like me. Like that feels really good for me. I take a lot of pride in that. I love supporting my community. I believe my community supports me. But it is important for us to get out of our immediate networks, those immediate comfort zones, and build some diversity into our networks. And we can do that by doing things like, if you don't golf, maybe going and trying to pick up a golf game with folks who don't look like you, or joining maybe a network group or an online group. So it's really important to go beyond your immediate network. You want to nurture real relationships with one supplier, one customer, and one competitor. And be intentional about having real relationships with at least one customer, one supplier. And I would venture to say that most of us have them with all of our, with many customers, but with one customer, one competitor, and one supplier. And seek out relevant people from unrelated organizations. So if you are, let's say you are so for me as a financial advisor, maybe I would seek out someone who is an educator, right? Or in a school system. And so just kind of seek out really building relationships that are outside of your comfort zone. The second one is you got to be willing to give I know a lot of people show up in communities and, it's easy to do, particularly if we're new business owners. We have a lot to learn. Oftentimes we need a lot of support, and we know that we need to be connecting with people. But I think if we show up ready to give as well as to receive, we'll have much more opportunity to really make authentic connections with people. So effective business relationships require, again, reciprocity. Be willing to give as much as you receive. Offer and deliver help, connect people, or share information. It's so easy to have a conversation with someone and hear them express a need and say, oh, wait a minute, I know someone who does that, or whose business is complementary to that. Let me connect you to. And that is such powerful giving. And I don't think people appreciate how easy it can be and how valuable it can be to just simply connect people that have complementary needs. And then fosters feelings of satisfaction and willingness of others to respond when you're in need, when you're in need. So I feel like if I go into a WEOP office, because WEOP understands that I take pride in this community, I support this community, I care about many of the individuals in this community, like I am very satisfied being an integral part of this community. And so I feel like if I went and sat down in a WEOP office, it would take me 2 seconds to start expressing a need, and Mary and Antoinette would be on it. Like, I feel like that relationship is there. And that is very valuable and very powerful to me, because Mary and Antoinette and WEOP are very influential in our community. And so, be willing to give as much as you receive. All right. And then selectively spend, your time on key relationships, only 24 hours in a day. And hopefully you're not trying to work all of them. But relationship building is important. And so be intentional about who you are spending your time with. You just cannot invest time in everyone. So spend time with your most important and productive relationships. These relationships generate returns in the near and long run. I can't tell you how many times someone I'd met several years ago refers someone to my practice. And so you just never know when something that you're sowing will pay off. So just sow into your relationships and avoid the trap of idle discussions and ego building. I think that is so easy to do. All right, keep your focus on the business landscape. Just pay attention to the bonds, loyalties, networks that characterize your community. If you look at the WEOP community, I think one of our bonds is that we're all women, right? And a lot of us are rooted here in the Metro Atlanta area. A lot of us are. And so, just pay attention to what makes up, or what are the characteristics of these communities. Recognize the norms, values, and preferences that shape the behavior of the people you need. Right? Again, go in knowing the community and the people that you want to connect with and who can be reciprocal in supporting your business, but you have to understand their needs so that, and what their strengths are, that supports what it is that you need.
Leida, go back to number 3 for a second.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Number 3.
Number 3. I'm sorry. I thought you were thinking bullet 3.
Because on that point, selectively spend quality time on key relationships. And I know this is building relationships sometimes is not an easy thing to do. But I wanted to encourage, as an organization, being WEOP, I can always pull people together through workshops, events, whatever. So it's easy. But sometimes I think as individuals, we hesitate. So I want to recommend that people can be creative in how they spend quality time, because say hypothetically, we have these big social media followers and sites, etc. It might be that you do something creative, like pull together 3 or 4 key people that you think might be a good mesh, and invite them out to brunch or for happy hour, or just do creative things to start bringing people together so you can spend that quality time with them and really get to know people. Because right now, on the generation of doing text, and we're not really sitting and having conversations and really getting to know people on a different kind of level. So I was just thinking of number 3, when you talk about spending quality time, which is not easy sometimes, because if you call somebody and say, hey, I want to get to know you, let's go out to dinner, they might be saying like, they might not respond positively. But if you do something like bring 3 or 4 people together, it makes like a more comfortable kind of environment where you can really get to know. You can say, hey, I'm bringing 3 or 4, I think, a power players together. Let's sit and have a conversation, or let's sit and have coffee. And then you could be creative in terms of methodically building those relations, but doing it kind of in a fun way and a creative way. And you're still kind of building upon getting to know people or giving them a chance to get to know you.
Yep, that's a great
Like
point.
some people like on LinkedIn, they're doing coffee. They send me coffee cups, like let's do coffee time, or just cute little things you can kind of get to know people.
Mhm.
And I just kind of wanted to kind of plant that seed, basically.
That's great. I think those are all great examples and ideas.
Like, what do you do when you want to get to know a strategic person you think might be valuable for your business? You want to reach out. You don't want to be too obvious about it. Like, hey, I think you can give me a lot of business. Let's meet. What would you do to get to know someone?
Yes, in the audience.
I'm asking you.
Oh, me, what do I do to get to? So yeah. So one of the things I like to do is I like to hold events. I do
Okay.
like to do events. Also, if I, want to get to know someone, I'll ask for a warm introduction. If it's like someone who knows someone that I know, or if it's someone that someone I know, or someone I have a relationship with knows, I'll ask for warm introductions. Can we have a quick phone call? Would love to just learn more about your business, share more about my business. So I'll ask, I'll take them to lunch or dinner or coffee, depending upon, how important I think the opportunity is. So there are just a lot of different things that, you can do, certainly traditional and non-traditional.
Okay, great. Okay.
Mhm. All right. And this is kind of where we live these days, right? Social media and relational capital. So I'm really curious. Does anyone here who's a business owner, do they still have a traditional website?
Yes.
I'm always happy to see that. I can't stand when somebody just sends me to Instagram because I don't know it well yet. Like, do you have a website? It's like, do you have a website? So I have so much growing to do on social media, but I would be really interested in someone just sharing what they're doing on social media to promote their business and to learn about other businesses and to connect with potential partners.
Don't all speak at one time.
I know, right?
And I just start the conversation because I get so overwhelmed. Like, I go on my LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn, I'm not trying to brag, but I have so many, invitations. I get so overwhelmed, just like, oh my God, what do I do with it? But I'm finding that I'm thinking about even the people that have doing events, like inviting a few strategic people and just saying, hey, look, we live behind social media. Let's do a happy hour together and see how many people come out. So it could create ways to kind of get people connecting, even if you have 5 or 6 people come out. There things that you can do to utilize to really maximize your social media, because I don't really maximize my social media. I have all these contacts, but I know I could be more creative, like invite people to a Zoom call to connect, and I don't see anything wrong with that, saying, hey, look, we live on social media, meet me on Zoom on 6 o'clock, whatever. So if you have over 5,000 people in your social media, you're inviting people, you might get 20 or 30, who knows? But it's still a way to connect, and you're still driving that social interaction on social media. Because let's be real, right now, you can build relational capital under social media because people are looking at how many followers you have, they're assessing, they're looking at what you're doing. So right now, in this new social media world, that is a great way to make yourself relevant. And you can make yourself relevant and prominent by, I'm having coffee with Sones, just building who you are. You're building your brand around that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to call Dr. Grant out because I think she has incredible visibility on LinkedIn. I love her videos. I just love what she does out there.
Is that Shauna Grant?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. A good afternoon again. I'm not sure what you're seeing, Leida. I'm just playing. Well, in this era, in terms of, so I do tutoring and we provide supplementary math support to students. And so our students are all over Instagram, and not many of them are on LinkedIn, but their parents or, teachers and those type of things, they're on LinkedIn. So I try to be very strategic in what I post to try to get attention. I even try to go over to TikTok to to engage those students. So I would really try to read up on how to really market the business, because I believe what you put out is what you will get. And so, I always think when someone goes to the Sharp Sessions social media page, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, what are they seeing? And is it what I'm presenting that I'm selling? And so I really make it a point to do research on what I need to put out there. And I try to be a resource to students and parents, and to show my expertise in that way when I'm posting.
Well, you do a great job. I love seeing
You.
your stuff.
Thank
I
you.
love
Testimonial, because during the pandemic, most of the people that I met online. And I could say I met Dr. Grant through a telephone conversation.
Mhm.
And we actually met online. And that's how I met quite a few of the women that I have relations right now online.
Yeah.
Yes, this is true. Leida, you introduced me to Antoinette.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. And so,
Yeah,
so,
I remember that.
mhm.
Yeah, awesome. Nice to hear from you. Okay, I'll move through the rest of this pretty quickly since we're getting close to time. Get out in the community, like learn who, learn who aligns well with your, do I have this in the way? Learn who aligns well with your brand and your business, and where those people spend their time, where they like to contribute and be in the community, and get behind those causes and, collaborate. And that's a great way to collaborate. So get out in the community, apply your brand and your resources to the needs in the community and get some visibility and build some relational capital that way. Again, I think a lot of the strength of my relationship with WeOp is I genuinely came in the door wanting to contribute. And so I think it's important, and it's an incredible opportunity to have that attitude and that approach in building relational capital. And then, it's not static. You got to prune it. You got to get rid of the weeds. You got to plant some new seeds. It is an ongoing, living, breathing entity in your business. So nurture people, nurture the relationships that are important to your organization. Push contacts whose usefulness has diminished over time into more of an inactive status. Like that's not the person where you're spending, a lot of your time with. And then regularly identify new opportunities and go after them. I think Antoinette shared some great examples of what you can do on LinkedIn. And these are some points of caution in relationship building. This will be a part of the slide deck if you want the slide, and I think Antoinette may share it, but these are just some points of caution. All relationships are not, or more relationships are not always better. And Lord knows what glitters is not always gold. Yeah. So just be very mindful and vet. Know who you're dealing with. Overinvestment in relationships can take time away from your business. If you're out and about all day, every day, then what's actually happening in your business? So really manage your time that resource appropriately. And then sometimes strong relationship networks can shut out new people. And I certainly see that in Atlanta quite a bit. You know, it can be a little cliquish. So be kind of open and porous, you know, in your communities. Like I would say really encourage that, really encourage welcoming new folks and new blood into the community. And also be intentional about plugging into to communities that may be pretty established and not, you know, necessarily welcoming in new folks. So I wanted to just use the last couple of minutes as an opportunity to just brainstorm on how you can leverage your relational capital. So if you are a human asset, right, and you have the ability to connect and meet people and have people trust and respect you and what you do and want to strategize with you, what are some ways that you can leverage that? Anyone have any ideas? Any thoughts on that? Well, Antoinette, you did a great job of sharing a couple already.
I know I was looking at yeah. And from an organizational point of view, I find that a lot of our entrepreneurs who are who are leveraging their relational capital are building these great, phenomenal relationships where they can actually do business together. So we always encourage, like, as you meet people, to be intentional. And not all relationships are good relationships, but however you can vet and you can be intentional about how you build that relationship that can be a win-win for both of you. So it might be a good, you know, task that when you meet people to think about, if you're thinking about doing business with them, as you vet them, like, what are the pros and cons, and how can it benefit you, and how can you build and grow together? Because if you look at what's going on in business right now, I mean, some of the great, phenomenal entities are partnering. It's like, for example, I was looking at doing a membership site, and like Wild Apricot now partners with Personify, and all these businesses have come together and strengthening what they're doing. So I think as women, we need to start thinking as we build these businesses, and we have so many challenges, you know, pandemic, or whatever, that we have to be so creative and innovative in how we approach and how we do business. It is so important. So I task everyone in the call to just think about what your network, which is, you know, they say your network is your net worth. It is the people that you know. And I can testify, even being a nonprofit organization, that phone calls have really opened doors for me because of that relationship. I build relationships around business related things. Like when I have an event, if I have a group of 10 to 12 speakers, we're building a relationship because we're talking about how we're going to make this event successful. And so at building that relationship, you get to know who you're around. You get to know who comes in on time, who's not on time. If they come in with the press, you know, you get to know their habits as well. And you're around business, you're building that relationship to see, can we further do things together strategically? So that's very, very important.
Yes. And then the last quick brainstorm would be strategies for collaboration. So, you know, and I think we just kind of talked about that, but you know that you can leverage your relationships or you can leverage your relational capital by actually getting out and wanting to partner with others. But if you think about your business, what are some strategies for collaboration that are specific to your business? I think Antoinette shared a great one. That's just pretty awesome.
In fact,
Antoinette Elliott. She said she shared a great one too. I mean, you both did, but I love the chef one. That's pretty cool.
Go ahead. Who was getting ready to say something?
Shanna, I was going to say, well, so one thing, I've been trying to be very strategic with partnerships. So I provide test prep for high school students who are looking to go into college, right? And so the overarching thing is you want to have a great application, and that's not just only having great test scores. You have to have great essays and those type of things. So I've partnered with individuals who provide the essay preparation part of it. And so I actually have 2 presentations. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Inroads College Link. So basically what I'll be doing is the test prep portion of their college prep planning sessions. And so basically it was just really a conversation that I also met with someone on LinkedIn, and he was the one who put my name in there. And so now I'm going to be presenting to students all over the country on test prep, and then I have another presentation with someone in Maryland. I think she found me on Google or something, but she does test prep, not test prep, but she does college prep, in that she provides students with how to write essays and how to really go after the scholarships. And so now we're like partnering to provide these services in order to lure in kids or students to help them make their application better.
Wow, that is awesome.
Mhm.
That is awesome.
Any more great examples of the ladies that we have online? Anyone like to share?
All
Well, let
right.
me share a story, because I noticed that one of my advisory board members is online, Irene Billingsley, and I would like to share. When I first started my organization, Irene was one of us. She's in real estate. Irene, are you near Mike? Can you talk? Irene? Well, just to share, we had a great.
Hello.
Is that Irene?
Yes, how you doing?
Pretty good, because I was sharing our collaboration when I first started WeUp. Irene specialized, she's a real estate entrepreneur, and she does financial literacy. So when we first started WeUp, Irene, she was one of our partners. She would come in and do all of our financial literacy training workshops. She came in and she talked about credit, and she's been doing that for years as part of our it was a collaboration strategy, because she had a certain expertise in an area that we did not have. So she would come in, and that was a great ongoing collaboration. And that's how she got associated with the organization. You did all that, Irene?
Yes. Good afternoon. This is Irene Dosey with Dosey Social Realty. I started a new company 2 years ago, which is also similar to what Anthony has talked about, the literacy program, where I started. The idea came up where I wanted to incorporate my real estate along with educational piece. When women get ready to purchase homes, I wanted them to be able to not only just purchase the home, but also be able to stay in the home for a long-term process. So that's what the educational part came from years ago in my financial background. But yeah, so, and that's something I've been still working on lately. I'm here at the urgent care, excuse me for my voice. I have COVID, so I tested positive this weekend. So I'm here to be retested over, but I did want to miss the workshop today. So I went on logged in while I'm sitting here at the urgent care to be retested.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry to hear that, Irene. I wouldn't have called you.
That's okay. I stepped outside. That's why I had to be a little quiet sitting there in the wait area because of the ongoing cough with the COVID. But yes, so I'm here today. So yeah.
Stop sharing.
You sound great.
Well, thank you.
But
Thank you.
We wish you a speedy recovery.
But thank you so much. I'm looking for a speedy recovery because I'm on my way. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I'm just going to put this out here since I'm on the call. I found out a lot of information this past 3 months about tax sale property. So I'm traveling around the different states like St. Louis, Alabama, and going up to Connecticut for tax property. But Anthony, I'll talk to you more about it later. But it's a great opportunity since the real estate market is so out of whack right now with buying homes. So the only option you have now, I consider now, is tax lien properties, where you can still buy properties at a reasonable price. But it's a lot of information, so I don't want to inundate you with so much information that I found out over these last 3 months when doing my research on it. But it's a great opportunity though, business-wise.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. That's okay. So we'll talk. But thank you, Irene. Make yourself well. You can turn your microphone.
Yeah, get well.
Yeah.
Well, this was great. Thank you, Antoinette, for having this conversation. And we are. And
Okay.
ladies for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And again, we have another event next week. We're going to be talking about women, leveraging your women-owned small business certification. But Leida, I want to thank you for all that you do in the community. And Leida is, again, she's a professional financial planner. So you know that there are 2% of African-American women that are financial planners, and Leida is one of them. So all through our relationship, she keeps encouraging women, especially women entrepreneurs and small business owners, to make sure that you have your financial plan. So I wanted to kind of get that in. And thank you, Shauna. This was a great conversation today.
Yes,
Thank you, Leida.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody on the call. And we look forward to staying connected. And we will see you next week at our next workshop. And we will, all of our sessions are recorded. So what we're going to do is we have a YouTube channel, and you could, we probably will have a link on our website, so you can just visit the YouTube and listen to this particular recording. So again, thank you all. Thank you, Leida, again. Thank you all for your input, and we look forward to seeing you soon. So everyone, bye-bye.